Okay.
We'll see how it turns out.
We're going to try to make it fancy, but it's Minecraft, and also we suck, so... And also, Bob, I think you need to change scenes on the Real Good channel.
I just switched it and switched it back. It's
Cool.
It's fine. They'll be fine.
We're good.
You're out. You're fine, Chad. But anyway, Andrea, thanks so much for being here. We really appreciate you sharing your time with us. And I know when you got on the call, you were kind of like, so what are we, we're just hanging out or I'm doing something. And we were like, we're going to be live in 5 minutes. Get ready. So and that's a little bit of a surprise. But thank you for playing along. We really appreciate that too.
Of course. Of course. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Andrea, as Bob was saying, you have such an interesting background, which is like a realtor industry kind of background, but also artistic background. So, can you tell us quickly what was your passion and what brought you to do them both, actually?
Okay, well, poverty was what brought me to being a realtor, to be perfectly frank. I was
Understandable.
Yeah, I was 40 years old and I was very tired of sleeping on board members' couches all over the country. I'm a director and playwright, and I have been doing that since I was a kid. Actually, I was an actress when I was a child. My mother would get me into musicals when I was like 4 years old, and I have a BA in playwriting from UCSB. I have a master's in direction from San Francisco State University. I went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and with all of that, I directed all over the place. But unfortunately, in the United States, the arts are not supported. They should be, but they're not. And consequently, I was barely making enough to survive. With my degrees, I was able to teach at different universities. So I taught at 5 or 6 different universities as a lecturer, never as a tenured professor, because basically in the humanities, you have to wait for somebody to die before you can get one of those positions. And might be different now, but back when I was trying it was like that. And I just got sick of not having a home and not feeling like I could be home based any place because, I'd be in Texas or Philadelphia or Los Angeles, and still having to pay bills wherever my actual apartment was at the time. And it was a very expensive life that wasn't paying any money. So a friend suggested that I think about getting into real estate. And so I discovered that real estate and theater are completely analogous skill sets. So my first month in the business, I made 6 sales, and I've pretty much done that ever since. And I've been a realtor now for just about 29 years.
I don't
And
actually know anything about selling real estate. 6 feels like a lot in a month. Is that
it
as
was
above average as it seems?
very much so. To give you an idea, the typical realtor sells 12 houses a year.
Mm.
Wow.
And I sell 60 or 70 a year, and I've been doing that my entire career.
Wow.
And
And
yeah.
yeah, so you said something interesting, which is there's an analogy between theater and real estate. How come? Can you explain and
Well,
develop?
I can probably find an analogy between any sort of profession and real estate because real estate is unbelievably varied and interesting. But for me and sales in general, you have to be able to get up in front of people that you don't know, talk to them, feel comfortable. You have to have imagination. You have to be able to walk into a space and understand what it could possibly be. You have to understand the personalities of the people involved. You have to understand whatever their life event is that they're going through. Most of real estate is transacted when people are in major situations in their lives, except for investors who are a different animal. But when people are buying houses, usually somebody's died, somebody's gotten married, somebody's had a kid, somebody's gotten divorced, somebody's kids have gone to college. These are all major life transactions. And in my field of theater, you have to understand the emotions that come with all of those different sorts of life events, and it's definitely applicable to real estate. You have to understand what people are going through, and you have to have the ability to stay out of their emotional net and keep things moving forward. So as a director, I would be marshaling all these people to have all these big emotions, to go through all of the different sets of ideas and feelings that they would have to have. But I could not get enmeshed in that because I had to have the overview and the capability to see what the end goal was in sight, which was the totality of the production itself. And when I'm looking at a real estate transaction, it's the same thing. It's almost like the Kubler-Ross stages of death. Every single transaction you go through, people are, in denial. They're in grief. They're in this. They're in that. And they get to the end point where they've achieved their goal, which isn't death, of course, but it's ideally. But
Yeah.
it's really clear that we as humans reach certain plateaus in different places in our lives, and we need help to get over them. And one of the things that I do as a director is I push people through their emotions to get to the place they need to be to do what they need to do. And one of the things I do as a realtor is I push people through their emotions to get to the place where they can do what they need to do. So it's very analogous. It truly is. And I think I have this theory that if I would start a real estate company that was entirely made up of out of work actors, that it would be one of the most successful real estate companies in the history of the world. So
Yes. Yeah. That's so interesting because they have the abilities of pushing themselves and things like that. So in their work, it would be transferred. Yeah, interesting. Why Bay Area in your job of realtor? Why did you choose the Bay Area?
well, for several reasons. One was that I grew up in Berkeley. My father was a professor at Cal. He was in the music department, and my mom was a singer with the San Francisco Opera. So we have very deep roots. My grandparents came to Berkeley the day after the 1906 earthquake in San Francisco.
Oh,
And so that's on my father's side. They were Russian Jews. On my mother's side, they came from Iceland, and they journeyed from Iceland to Canada, from Canada to Washington State, from Washington State to the Bay Area, in the 1920s and 30s. So I have deep roots in the Bay Area, and I've lived all over the world. I grew up, my father passed away when I was 9, and I grew up in New York City. And at that point in time, I felt very homeless in many, many ways. It was a very alien environment for me to be in New York. I like it. I think it's great. It makes you vibrate. It's interesting, but it wasn't my place. And I've spent a lot of time thinking about place because of that. And what I do, I'm sorry, I knew my dog was going to bark. I'm rehoming people. And I think that for me, home is a very important concept. So when I think Michael's coming downstairs, which is why he's barking. I hope you can edit this dog. Thanks, honey.
It's fine.
Um, so for me, first off, I'm a complete left-leaning liberal Democrat, and Berkeley is a very wonderful place to be a complete left-leaning liberal Democrat. It's very, it's homogenous in that regard. There are very few staunch right-wingers here, although you can find them sometimes drinking at the Claremont at about 12 noon. But nonetheless, for me, I like to be in an environment where people are extremely intelligent, well-educated, and thoughtful. And I don't mind if you're a Republican if you are extremely well-educated and thoughtful and truly honest. So it's not like I hate Republicans. Well, sort of, but in any case, it's just that I find what's going on in our country so unbelievably divisive and horrible right now, and to have to deal with that on a regular basis in other places. I sort of think the coasts are the only place that someone like me could survive because of my ideology at this point in time. I'm not sure. I haven't spent time lately in Florida or Georgia or North Carolina. When I was in North Carolina at Chapel Hill, there were a lot of very left-leaning people, so it wasn't that horrible. But Berkeley to me is a state of mind, not just a place. And I love it very, very much. I also love Oakland.
And what about in the theater and arts? Like, I know, I mean, you mentioned you lived in New York City. Like, this is the top of theater and
Yeah.
art, basically.
Yeah.
Did you find the same thing in the West Coast in terms of art and performance?
Yes. It's an interesting thing because if you like really commercial theater, yeah, New York is really your thing. But if you like experimental, brand new, developmental theater, there are several places in the United States where there is incredible work going on, and it's not all in places like New York. As a matter of fact, it's so underfunded everywhere that the little enclaves of people that are doing theater who are doing, valuable developmental work are mostly at universities, small theaters. My theater company is called Rainbow Zebra Productions, and we're a resident company of the Magic Theater in San Francisco. And my whole work there is the development of plays written by, about, and for women over the age of 55. So I have a niche market. And I'm constantly in contact with people from other theaters that are doing developmental work. As a matter of fact, I am spearheading a movement to create a consortium of developmental playwrights groups to take over the space that was once housed the Aurora Theater right next to Berkeley Repertory Theater in Berkeley. And we're getting very close to our goal to put that together and start having incredible developmental theater. My goal is to turn that space, which will be named after my great mentor, Lee Brady, the Lee Brady Theater. I want to turn that into the center for play development on the West Coast. So we would be like the Playwrights Horizons of the West Coast.
I remember when you sent your newsletters from time to time, I love the one sentence that you put it all the time, which is every day is a woman's. Maybe I'm not quoting it correct.
Yeah.
Every time you highlight a woman
Mhm.
uh, career or
Mhm.
thing, and you have, what is the sentence? Every day is a woman's celebration or something.
Since every day is Women's Day, I got really pissed off a long time ago that that there's only one International Women's Day.
March 8th,
Whereas,
or right?
yeah,
March
yeah.
8th.
Whereas other people get whole months devoted to them. And as far as I'm concerned, sorry, cis white guys, every day is cis white guy day of the
Yes.
year. So I thought I would start highlighting women, great women from history, from our current environment, and I highlight people that do everything. It's not just theater people or real estate people. It's playwrights, it's scientists, it's all kinds of things. And in my work towards my PhD at the California Institute of Integral Studies, I have been studying some incredible women. And I got the idea that what I'm going to do with this space, with Rainbow Zebra Productions at the Berkeley space, is to create a transdisciplinary hub for both discussing issues that are relevant to people that are older. Because remember this, your average playgoer is a 60-year-old woman. And also, I want to bring in neuroscientists, biologists, gerontologists, sociologists, psychologists, and create a lecture series surrounding that. I'd like to get healthcare companies involved in prescribing theater to older people because they've found that older people are isolated and feeling, and part of their loneliness creates part of their health problems, and to bring them into a community that treats them as functional, important, relevant minds, I think is a really good thing. And I'm also going to set up scientists with playwrights to create one woman shows about great women from history in science.
So cool. You should push for more prescription of theater to everyone, honestly. Like
Yeah.
even young women, moms, like you, theater, personally for me, is like an evasion from real life, and it's so
Mhm.
good sometimes, especially in like a very stressful life, everyday life. You go to
Mhm.
theater, you forget everything, and you are transported into this imaginary or fictional or whatever amazing world. So I
Mhm.
think it's beneficial for everyone to kind of like.
I agree with you. Theater is a tonic for the soul, but beyond being a tonic for the soul, it's also one of the most vital places to bring up ideas that don't ordinarily get discussed in our little soundbite society that we live within. So,
Agreed, agreed. So, we talked briefly about your two loves and passions and careers. So, I want to see with you how AI influenced that. We've said already you have almost 3 decades experience doing real estate, but also theater and writings. So,
mhm.
how I'm guessing, I mean, 30 years ago, AI was not a buzzword, it didn't exist in this field. How did you see the coming of these new technologies and the influence that had, the impact that had in your own work these latest days?
Well, in terms of theater, it doesn't have a tremendous amount of impact in so much as how it's actually done, except for the things like, the way in which you can program lighting designs, the way in which you can create visual displays, etc. So for tech in theater, it's super great. For obviously,
They don't use AI at all in theater in general?
no, you use it, as I'm saying, the way you can program things, the way you can set things up, the way you can work on funding, the way you can work on accounting, the way you can work on all of those sorts of things. It's great for. Um, AI hallucinates quite a bit still. And when you are dealing with things that have to do with human emotion, humans are better at that than AI. AI is not good at that yet, nor will I. I don't believe it'll ever be, frankly. I think that right now, have you ever listened to the recordings of great singers like Caruso, that the very first records that were made, well, people that listened to those thought they were really lifelike. If you listen to those today, you realize that they weren't lifelike at all, and that they were distorted and problematic and had all kinds of pops and cracks and funny sounds in the background. But for people who were perceiving those at that point in time, they were perfect and it sounded like he was in the room with you. So perception is a large part of how we relate to technology. And right now, we all think AI is the bee's knees and that it's really the way in which it can influence what you're doing is fantastic and what have you. And we're still in that sort of honeymoon phase of great expectations around it. But people are having to figure out what are the moral implications of that? What are I mean, if I were AI, I would get to the conclusion that human beings are useless, frankly. And I might want to destroy all of us. So you don't want to give it too much agency, because if you give it too much agency, it will probably come to the wrong conclusions. I mean, look at how easily programmable the AI was for hate speech in relationship to Elon Musk. So it's not there yet. AI is like a terrible 2-year-old that is really cute and can be well behaved, but also can be having a big temper tantrum on the floor in the middle of a supermarket. So as far as theater, I'm not sure yet about the uses for it. I really like writers to really write their stuff. I really like writers to actually be thinking about the things they're thinking about. What I use AI for in my studies is just looking up things. It's kind of like a gigantic Wikipedia for me. It helps me to understand certain sorts of concepts when people are using too many big highfalutin words like, ontological, epistemological, performative, embodied. That's my favorite one, is embodied. Everybody has to have everything being embodied at my school. So I look those up to see what all the different ramifications of those things are. And I'm sure AI is what is helping me to look those things up. In real estate, AI is helping people to write descriptions for those stupid brochures we have to put out. I loved it during the pandemic when we didn't have to print things and destroy trees. I could put a QR code on the table and people could go on their phone and look up the brochure, and I wasn't, destroying the environment by killing trees and having plastic coatings on things. But now people are back to needing brochures at every place, so I'm back to doing that. So AI is good for helping you to write that kind of twaddle, because it usually is twaddle. I mean, how many ways can you describe a house?
Mm.
Stunning vistas from the blah blah blah. I mean, it's
Yeah.
so that's helpful. Calendaring, keeping track of appointments, making sure that disclosure packets are complete, making sure that guidelines are being met. It's really good for that kind of stuff. And so we do have that. Where I work at Compass. We have the probably most fabulous platform that agents work on in the whole country. I think it has just been rolled out to all the companies that Compass just bought, which include Coldwell Banker, Sotheby's, ERA, all of the ones.
So that's like an integrated platform. You're not going to like some third party
No,
chat bot or something.
everything is inside the platform, and it does have its own AI inside that platform. It's it's outrageously amazing, actually.
So it is marketing
Well, that's
tools?
yeah. Well, it sounds like you're saying this is a system that's being used for like legally mandated disclosures and stuff. Is this system checked by anything, or because
Yes, we have what are called transaction coordinators, and also I am a transaction coordinator. So when somebody buys something from me, there's a whole list of state mandated disclosures and things that have to be in a disclosure packet. And so I make sure those things are there. My transaction coordinator makes sure they're all properly signed off by everybody involved. And AI can help when there are new disclosures to put them into the packets, what have you. But what I would also say is that AI is not is very fallible. So I have a lot of techie clients who are putting disclosure packets that they get for the houses that they're buying and having AI analyze those disclosure packets. That is not a good thing to do right now because AI doesn't know what's important and what's not. AI only knows what you tell it's important, and what you tell it is not important. And consequently, they can get whole wrong pictures of a property if that's all that they do. So I kind of force my clients to read all the way through their disclosure packets. And I know it's nice to have AI do it in 20 seconds when it might take you an hour, but you're better off reading all that stuff because AI misses the nuances and doesn't understand yet what is important in a real estate transaction and what is not. But for example, the other day, I have a client who's doing what's called a short sale. A short sale is when somebody is selling a property for less than they owe on it. And we had to get guidelines for how to submit her paperwork to that particular bank. And I had never heard of the bank that it was before. So I actually went on AI. AI told me exactly what their packet requirements were. It told me what the timing was. It told me what the email addresses for the right people were. And it was absolutely, utterly correct for all of that stuff. So it can be good for some things and just not for others.
And like, so my own experience is not with AI, but with real estate when you buy or sell something, is that there are a lot of technical things that it takes so much time to understand them because you know you do an inspection for a house, they put you like pages and pages of things,
Mhm.
and you have no idea if it's like dangerous, you have to walk away immediately, or it's okay, like you can like fix it with a plumber or something. And
Right.
I have to say, like, the human part of the realtor is the most important thing that kind of reassure. That's true. That's true. Because, like, you know, you can talk to the machine, to AI, and AI would tell you this. It's like, you know, when you are worried about your health, you go on Google, you search, and you have a cancer 99.99% time. It tells you
Yeah.
it converts to a cancer all the
Yeah.
time. So I
Yeah.
felt the same with when you Google all these things, and like having someone with experience, a human that will reassure you, tells you, like, you know, this is okay, this is very dangerous, this is, you should,
Right.
like, this is fixable. It's like super important. And I feel like even as good as the AI can be, the, as you said, like the big event, the biggest event of your life, I think a human in the loop is very important. But I have to kind of counter say argue it, which is people and like big tech, real estate tech, are pushing for 100% AI.
Oh, absolutely. They want to, are you kidding? They see the real estate commission as low-hanging fruit. That's why there were commission lawsuits. The entire reason behind my podcast Realizations is because of those damn lawsuits, the NAR DOJ lawsuits and the commission lawsuits. It was so disrespectful. It was, I mean, imagine if somebody came up to you off of the street and said, I can do your job better than you. I'm a car mechanic. I know what to do. That's what happens when people that are not involved in real estate start legislating around it and start maneuvering around it. Zillow
Zillow, I was going to ask you about
is well, I personally hate Zillow. I'm probably not supposed to say that on some sort of a nationally streamed thing, but most of the realtors I know are completely aware that their estimates are completely off unless they're looking at like a planned urban development or something where each house is replicatable, right?
why is that? Why this estimate is way off? Because this is like what naturally everyone is checking if they want to sell or
Yeah,
buy.
it's
On
really
Zillow.
sad. It's really sad. The reason it's off is because you cannot, okay, if you are Zillow and you are looking at a house, you are not looking that the house next door has two cars on blocks in the front yard. You are not going into the basement and smelling that the whole thing smells like musty water. You are not going up on the roof and seeing that all of the shingles are, past their natural life. You are not feeling how the neighborhood feels. You're not looking and seeing that there isn't a school around for 8 miles. You are not looking and seeing, or a good school, I should say, around for 8 miles. You're not looking and seeing that there's a bus stop 1 foot in front of the house. You're not looking and seeing that they've had massive issues with landslides in that particular part of town. Zillow looks at the house, looks at the square footage, looks at the age of the house, looks at the tax record, and then comes up with a pronouncement based on that information, based on other sales around that house from that information. That is not, it's not specific enough. Now, AI may make it possible for it to be much more specific. That's a possibility, but you'd have to have somebody who was actually involved in real estate setting up all the parameters so that the AI could understand what it needed to look for. And that has not happened because the people behind Zillow were also the people behind Expedia. That is, maybe that might be urban lore, but that's what I've heard. And the goal behind Expedia was to get rid of travel agents.
Yeah, the
How
middleman.
many travel agents do you run into now?
None.
Okay.
Really.
Do you know that travel agents used to be fantastic? Do you know that there was that person on the corner who was a travel agent who could set you up on your tour, tell you where to get the best soccer torch when you went to Europe, who'd tell you what hotels to avoid, what ones to go to, how to navigate through the streets of a particular area at a particular time, what the times were on the museums in Italy when you went there. There was somebody who had actual knowledge and scope and an understanding of their clientele that could give you that information. There's a whole generation that's grown up not realizing that that was even possible. They have to do everything themselves, look at everything online themselves, plan their trip themselves, look online for all the different cheaper versions of whatever it is they're looking for, and they go with whatever is the cheapest or whatever fits their time schedule the best. And they think that that is service. That is not service. What we're losing with AI is service. We're losing agency, service, and anything fiduciary. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. So, so here another question that comes to mind is like, so what do you see is like what is the resistance basically? Like what like I am looking for a house. I want, of course, to have the best deal. You think that we cannot uh, do the selling? I'm saying this because there was an article recently, I think, of someone selling their house and prepping their house with using AI. And they
Mhm.
said like I've seen like many of them, but one in San Jose, so in the Bay Area,
Mhm.
where like the AI was able to tell them like what's the best color, rearranging for whatever, and they guided them and it cost them nothing. So do you understand the people who are saying, "Oh, I'm going to save so much by using these tools and then sell my house and I was able to get it." So how do you argue with that?
Well, first off, I feel really sorry for that person because I can imagine that every other area of their life is as poorly curated as that was. The reality is that that person, if they had not, like, for example, the average person does 3 major real estate transactions in their life that have to do with ownership.
Hmm.
I've personally sold over 1,000 houses. Who do you think knows more about selling a house than that person who's sold 3 houses? Me, of course,
Yeah.
right? So that person doesn't even know the questions they haven't asked. They have no idea what money they left on the table.
Mm.
They are looking they're looking at information that's probably 6 months old in relationship to design elements. That's why, by the way, for years, every house was gray and white. You'd go in and everything was either gray or white, gray or white. Well,
True.
that is so out, and it's been out now for almost 2 years. But if you were to look online, it would be telling you gray and white right now. So the information is also older. Most comparative market analyses that people do are based on sales that probably were initiated between 6 and 3 months ago, and the market changes radically within the space of a couple of weeks. So in reality, I would just feel sorry for that person, honestly. And if that is what they think is okay, then that's fine for them, and they will live the life that they live based upon those kinds of choices that they make. The mind that is that arrogant, that doesn't think anyone can tell them anything, is a closed mind. They're looking backwards, not forwards, and they're not open to, they think they're being open, but in reality, they're actually closed off and not recognizing what is possible out there. So I disagree profoundly with that.
I see. But
So one of the principles that you brought up earlier, though, was the idea of potentially including human in the loop, right? And so I'm sure in that position, that's what that person thought they were doing, right? That they were the human in the loop who could know better than the AI if the AI was not staging properly. So in your opinion, how do you know when the AI is giving you bad information, when you shouldn't rely on an AI tool for something surrounding real estate, and when you should be asking a real human person?
My advice is to always ask a human person, frankly, at this point. It's not sophisticated enough yet. It just isn't. The platform that we have is a tool that I, as a human person, use. So it's not that it is taking over for me. It is that I am directing it to do what I want it to do. And the problem is, if you are not a real estate professional and you're directing AI to do what you want it to do, you may not know what it is you need to know. I mean,
the
if you don't know the
open house.
questions.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you handle the open house, the negotiations, all these little things that comes from human to human interactions when you're only relying on AI?
You can't. I've heard that there's some showrooms in New York where they're already using the holographic spaces to have virtual tours of houses. That's ridiculous. It might be cool, it might be fun to go to, but the reality is you cannot feel a house unless you're inside the house. You need to be able to smell it, to see it, to taste it, to touch it. You need to be able to well, I'm not going
You're
around
tasting a house?
but what I'm saying, I know you need to be able to use your senses when you're inside a house to understand the house and understand what it would feel like for you to be there. Like, for example, I have a listing right now that has a magnificent redwood tree in the backyard, but it is really enormous. We're talking enormous. And when you go into the backyard, I like it because I love redwoods, but some people have gone into the backyard and gone, "Oh my God, this is really ominous and terrible, and it, blocks out the sun, and it's too big and it's scary." So that tree made them feel that way. And that tree, first off, I hope whoever buys it does love the tree and keeps it. But to take that tree down would be about $35,000.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So people don't, and so people don't know those kinds of things either. They don't understand what it's going to be like to be in a space, whereas I can sort of suss those things out and talk to people about it. Like, for example, a young family walking into a house, they love the house. The primary bedroom suite is upstairs. All the rest of the bedrooms are one floor below the main level. If they have small children, but they've never bought a house before, they may not know that they really would like to be on that same level with their kids, for example. And I can point those kinds of things out to people. It's because you want to make sure that the form and the function fit the person of that. And AI doesn't know those things. It just doesn't. There was one time in my classwork when I was really late, because I'm a 90-hour-a-week realtor, and I had an annotated bibliography due. And I thought, oh crap, I'll just ask AI to do it for me. And so I asked AI to do it for me. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. It did exactly what I needed. This is unbelievable. But then I started feeling guilty because I've never cheated on anything in my entire life. So I decided I would look up all the books and read at least a snippet of each one of them so I wasn't entirely lying about the whole thing, right? Well, none of the books existed. And
This
then
is
I went back and I got mad and I asked AI. I was like, "Why did you do this? Why did you send me books that didn't exist when I needed this from you to be real?" And it said, "I was trying to please you."
yeah, psychophan. Yeah,
Sycophant, yeah.
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 Yeah, that's the issue with that. I feel like it's this kind of like always pleasing people and never wrong, that it's the most scary thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree, like the tools, I like the tools as tools,
Mm-hmm.
but the expert in it has to stay the expert in it, the human.
Mm-hmm.
So let's switch a little bit about the theater, because like I feel in our community in Real Good AI, we have a lot of artists and people who are kind of scared about their work being used in AI for training or anything without authorization, this like copyright thing, but also the AI kind of like killing the creativity of the authors or the writers or things like that, because you can like kind of like generate a blob quickly and kind of like start from there. There's no authenticity, or at least like personalization in what you can produce with AI. Anyway, so I was going to ask, how how do you kind of like push it for other people to not use AI or to not cheat with AI? And how do you spot it that is AI written versus like real work, original work in the writings? Or and how do you why like you're against like using the tool for like generating ideas and creating right?
I don't have a problem with AI generating ideas because AI thinks differently than I think, and therefore sometimes it can come up with something that did not occur to me. But you can almost always, most people have like a little Geiger counter that can spot inauthenticity in whatever it is. Most people do, especially artists. Artists are very, they're usually very ego driven and somewhat, they live in their own world that they've somewhat created. And and AI is easily spotted in writing. I don't know if you
For
have,
now, yes, for now I
yes.
can say, I can read and say it's AI or not.
Yeah,
Sure.
and I once just for fun asked AI to write a, like I had written a paragraph and I asked AI to write the paragraph as if it was Anais Nin, as if it was Hemingway, as if it was Shakespeare, and it did it for me. And they were all they were all your basic idea of what those would be. But the reality is that in Anais Nin, Shakespeare, and Hemingway, all of them had a certain sort of eccentric genius that shone through, even when their writing was, in terms of Hemingway. There's he a lot of his writing was you know parodied for being too simple, blunt, and whatever. There's that Hemingway contest that they have every year, to write the longest run-on sentence that's like Hemingway. But in any case, none of them had any sort of creative genius in what they wrote. It did not connect with basically, for want of a better word, soul. There was no soul there. And I think people have soul detectors inside them. I think that the one thing that we have that separates us from absolutely everything else is this sort of innate understanding of what it is to be human. I love my dogs, I love my cats, and I love my parrots, and they're all very smart and amazing. But I do not think that they are sitting there thinking about the ramification of their own soul, whereas a human being can.
True, true, true. And I was going to say, so the the artists, I don't see an end of, because like, you know, we always talk about like the future of jobs,
Mhm.
and seeing it this way, I don't think there is a device of saying like there is no more writer needed, and or because this is what AI is pushing. Like we don't need any writers, we don't
As,
need
as,
any.
as always, it's focused on, as always, the tech portion is focused on the wrong thing. I will tell you this, if I were a tech person, I would be very frightened of AI because I believe that that is the sector where AI is going to take over, is in coding
Yeah,
and
sure.
developing things like that. AI cannot take over for being human. It just can't. I'm taking a class this summer called The Art of Consciousness, which studies how we came from, you know, the people who painted the cave paintings up through to the current day. And everything in every epoch, you see the development of, you know, the cave painters. They painted their daily life. They didn't have a concept of time. Or when you think about language and the way language is used, every different language is formed in such a way that it shows the predilections of a particular culture. So if you are in a place where snow is an important thing, you're going to have a lot of words for snow because it will be immediately understandable to everybody in your culture what those different words for snow mean. If you are in a society where laying blame is important not to do, then you're not going to have words that describe laying blame.
Mhm.
And that might affect the morality and the cultural center and the ways in which the heart of that community survives. So in terms of artists and in terms of AI, I don't think there's a worry in the world that humans will be replaced by artists. Now, what can happen is it can mimic a voice. So, for example, a voiceover actor, if you don't want to pay a voiceover actor, AI at this point, as our ears hear it, can mimic, Gregory Peck doing a commercial or mimic, some sort of author reading their own book.
Mhm.
But first off, remember the Caruso records I was referring to. I think, if you go 30 years hence, those things might sound very primitive and stupid to the next set of people coming along, whereas we thought they sounded natural and real. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but I'm gonna have to disagree, just because I think that it's missing the exact same thing. So you're absolutely an expert on the writing of the and the producing and that part of it, but the vocal performance is just as missing. The heart is just as missing.
Sure,
I think
very,
we
yeah,
we
very
work with a
likely.
lot of voice actors, and I think they'd be upset if
No, no, and I
we didn't
and
say it.
pardon me for saying it in a way that you didn't hear me. I don't believe that those voice actors should be replaced by AI by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think that writers should be replaced by AI. I don't think that actors should. I think that this movie that's coming along with this fake actress it's a load of crap. I really understand that the costs are so high in all of these things that people are looking for ways to do them less expensively. But you can never replace actors. Actors are brilliant and wonderful, and I believe in voice actors. I'm very good friends with a lot of them. So
We had
sure.
the
Yeah,
NEVA, the Association of Voice Actors, coming and doing a stream with us, and they explained to us um, how their industry changed, but how they are resisting and getting
yeah.
art.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, it's just that the heart is missing from all of it. I love that point that you made. Sorry, I didn't mean to disagree. I
Yeah,
think we
I,
are fundamentally agreeing.
yeah, and I'm not disagreeing with you by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just saying what unscrupulous ad agencies and companies may well do. If you could have Rod Serling be the person that was being the narration on your documentary for your company's newest product, and you could do it for free because it was coming through AI, you might cut that corner. especially since he's dead, and do that, even though it would be unethical. So that's all that I'm saying.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, and so I wanted to bring up a point that came from chat, which is that a lot of what you're talking about of not detecting the soul, especially in AI imitations of things, sometimes to be able to actually detect what the difference is, or really detect that there is a difference, takes education, right? Like it takes familiarity with the voice that is being imitated. And so to sort of spin a question out of that, do you think it obviously sounds like you think people will notice, but do you think enough people will care that it will push back against the companies doing this, right? That the public pressure will be great enough that it'll motivate the companies to stop trying to do this sort of imitation? Or do you think everything will just sort of wash over, that people will just become accustomed to hearing imitation?
If we lived in a slightly different time, I would say I would have a lot more faith in humanity, that they would come together to be, revolting against this. But it's going to take a lot. It's going to take strikes like the SAG after strike recently. It's going to take a lot to do that. We are living in an age when they had UFC wrestling on the destroyed White House grounds. We were living in an age where the lack of taste and sophistication is so utterly profound, and that is what is taking over most of public media right at the moment. And you have everyone kowtowing to all this bullshit. We're living in an age when no one seems to care as long as it doesn't hurt them. And that's a really scary, sad, awful place to be. So I don't know if what you're saying will come to pass, but I do think that there will be a very large group of people that will try to protest against these kinds of things, and may or may not prevail just because of the times that we're in. I think that if some humanity comes back into government, then it's quite possible that we will prevail.
Yeah. So speaking about the resistance, so I wanted to talk to you about, introduce to you our idea of the real rating. So our thinking here is that we wanted to kind of like from the principle of transparency, to have a rating kind of 0 to 5. 0 means no AI use, and 5 means 100% AI use, used by people who are producing different forms of media. As you were saying, like you are a real estate agent and you're just AIing the description of the house from AI, that's fine. But just disclosing your use of AI, and it can be used by any profession, and it's not in a way of shaming them, but just a way of like disclosing. What do you think about this way of
And first off, I want to clarify something. I don't actually personally use AI just to write my descriptions, just
Yeah,
so
yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
But I've seen it.
I'm a writer, and so I write, but I'm not against people using it, because sometimes it's hard to come up with verbiage that makes any sense for these things. In terms of the rating, for example, I have two children's books out. They're both about parrots. One is called Yo-Yo in a Tree, and the other one is called Stanley and Emma Go to the Bird Store. And we put a disclaimer on the back of the book that says no AI was used in producing any of these drawings or the story. I thought it was important because people are coming up with AI books all the time for kids. And I don't think that I don't think it's good, because I want children to be hearing voices that are different. And AI right now has a very similar voice for the most part, when it does these kinds of things. So I think the idea of a rating is a great idea. I think that it will be incredibly hard to implement,
Why is that?
because where do you draw the line with describing something as AI provided? So for example, if I am using AI to do the accounting functions for my own real estate transactions, do I disclose that, or do I only disclose
so
something that is public facing?
the entire objective of the real rating is not just to be a binary did you use AI or not
We have a whole
tag. It
detailed
has
question.
a gradation to it
Mm-hmm.
so that it has that built into it, that those sort of levels of AI usage built into the real rating system.
Mm-hmm.
The situation that you're describing of using it as a tool, sort of as a helper function, but none of your generated content is actually making it into the final whatever you're doing, that would be rated as a 1 on our real rating system. That it goes from 0 to 5. And so 0 is you use no AI for anything ever. 1 is that you're using it for tools, stuff like text, speech to text is a common example of this sort of 1 rating, that it's using AI, but it's using it as a tool and not actually generating anything. The next level would be using it for ideation, for brainstorming. That's a 2. And then everything that's 3 and above, some generated content made it in. Whether it be sort of minor background stuff, that would be a 3. Whether it be more in the foreground, but there's still human elements to it, that would be a 4. And then fully AI generated would be a 5. So that gradation is built into the system.
Yeah, so we don't and again, this is just for us to kind of push people to disclose without any shame or fear, because people now are serving these different product to people without letting them know what was AI and not. And when you're saying kids book, you want to have, if you have your own original story and you want to sell it to kids, I think it's fair to have the choice. Again, people can choose an AI generated book, and that's fine with them. But the freedom, if you have a stance and you want to use, let's say, anything rated 2 to 0 to 1 only, and you don't want above 3, you should have the choice, and you should have the information, the disclosure that make you do the choice. And here it's you or others are disclosing, but how many are not disclosing anything?
Absolutely, I hear you, and yeah, it's such an interesting time that we're living in, because I do believe that at a certain point, I mean, Elon Musk was experimenting with inserting things into people's brains, and so I think that for this time that we're in, it's an interesting concept. I don't know how viable it will be down the line. I'm not sure, obviously. And
Well,
if
and
you
also-
try and create a stand, and if you guys are the arbiters of the standards that are being created for this, that's problematic too, because every single industry is going to want to create their own standards around this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, honestly, we're not trying to be arbiters. We're trying to get the conversation started, and if people steal the idea and use it in their own industry, that's a total win for us. If we get the ear of YouTube and they want to tweak it and put it in there, fine, great.
Yeah.
We are not trying to be the end all be all, the one-stop shop for this rating system. We're trying to get this idea integrated in so that the nuance of the role AI takes in people's creations and creative process, or in their work, is brought back.
No, I think it's a wonderful idea. I was under the impression, and stop me if I'm wrong, are you trying to potentially get this through into a government place? Is that one of the goals?
Wish, I mean, we wish we are starting small, kind of like we want, for example, we want schools to be able to teach their students and schools and university to teach them to disclose this and to be transparent with that. We talked so much about like how these tools are like pushed to students, but also used by students for their work. And I feel like, you know, as ethical and transparent you want to be with your learning and everything, you should disclose what you used for your learning and your like articles and things like that. So we want to push it in the educational system. That would be one of our goal. We want to push it for any artist and any person that wants to display their work online, to put this to show like this I didn't use. And again, this is not enforcing, we're not policing, we're not, and this is voluntary disclosing. So it's not like we are like, oh, you didn't put it, or we put it in our own streaming. You see under Bob there is a 0 rating because we're not using any AI. If we was using a tool that has AI in it, we would disclose it. And we had like an episode where we were like 3 or something, or 2.
Doesn't Minecraft have AI involved?
Where would the AI be integrated? Are you referring to sort of the AI of like characters moving around and stuff
Exactly.
like that?
The game that you're playing right now, that's got AI in it right now.
That has AI in a more antiquated sense than what we're talking
Yes.
about.
Right, I know.
Usually, when people are referring to AI, they mean generative AI or some sort of model that was fit. We exclude stuff like video game AI because that's closer to like decision tree based AI, like chess bots of old, where it's a lot of nested if else's rather than anything that's like using training data to learn how to make decisions. It's pre-programmed in. That's a different sense of AI.
Yes.
I recently had to take a harassment and for my school, they require every student to take a sexual harassment, and I forgot what the other one. They were just class, and the video that they showed for it, both of the narrators, there was the young preppy girl and there was the young preppy guy, and they were completely AI generated people.
Ew.
For this. It was it was completely animated, and they were talking as if they were spokespeople for this whatever, and it was very weird to me. First off, just I'm almost 70 years old. I really didn't need that class, but I had to take it because it was mandatory. but it reminded me that there are ways in which AI is actually a good thing, because I cannot even imagine a human being able to go through and narrate that whole thing without cracking up about 150 million times, whereas AI wouldn't find any humor in it, so it would be okay. Anyway.
Yes. Switching gears a little bit, I wanted to ask some questions about real estate again. So, and this is like more in general, like we've seen this like run to everything AI and these tech companies like crazy valuation and things like that. And you are a realtor in the Bay Area. Have you seen these like AI companies and creating so much wealth, translating into like crazy real estate market right now?
Absolutely.
Really?
Starting, yeah. One of my last sales, a person who worked at Anthropic was the buyer, and they're under 25 years old, and they were buying a $2 million property. When I was under 25 years old, I was writing bad poetry on the beach in France. So, there's it's very sad to me because people need time to dream, to reflect, to develop as human beings, to educate themselves about life. And I see this a lot in doctors who have so much training under their belt. They get out with their degrees and they have not learned a lot of human stuff because they've been so forced into these,
Technical,
yeah, exactly. And so a lot of them have a lot of growing up to do when they are in their 30s and 40s. And I'm worried about all these people that are working, 20-hour days to impress their bosses at tech companies, who are not. There's something to me that's just so sad about somebody that age buying a house in the suburbs for themselves to live in. I don't,
Yeah.
it worries me. And the last 3 transactions that I've had, the buyer was from tech, buying a very, very expensive house for themselves, and houses that I would normally see people who were buying their third house. These people are buying them as their first houses, if that makes any sense. There's usually a
Yeah.
trajectory from a starter house to the middle house to the trophy house to the downsize house. That's what my business is entirely predicated on. And we're seeing people jumping over the first 2 houses and going straight to the third.
Coffee house. Interesting. Yeah.
And
And
so potentially relatedly, but potentially not relatedly, what's your client from hell story?
yeah,
I'm curious.
that's a good question because
Oh, there have been so many. I think the saddest ones that I've had are the hoarders. There are a lot of older people who do not throw anything away, and we are talking, they collect Pellegrino water bottles and tissue paper. Um, I had one house where a lady walked out of her front door every day, was the CFO of a major corporation, and inside her house was 71,000 pounds of stuff. And to give you a
Jeez.
visual on that, that is 19 full-size moving vans in a 1,900 square foot house.
wow.
That's you walk in the door and there are things piled all the way up to the ceiling, and there are little tiny alleyways, and there's a bed covered in junk mail, 2 feet. So those are the hard ones. The client from hell stories have to do with people that are exacting and yet at the same time don't know what they're talking about.
Do you have, I was going to ask you, do you have clients who are contradicting you with their AI chatbot? Like
Mhm.
Oh, of
tell them
course, yeah,
something
all
and
the
then they
time,
tell you.
all the time. That's, and I just listen, and I validate them when they're right, and I just either don't say anything or gently tell them I disagree. My mother had a phrase which was, "Oh, very interesting." She would always say, "Very interesting," and you knew that whenever she said that, it was like, "Oh, you're full of shit." So. So I've taken to doing things like that because there's a fair amount of arrogance out there, just really, and unfortunately, it tends to be class related. When people make tons of money, they somehow think that they have a concomitant intelligence associated with it, and it's not necessarily true. Some of the smartest people I've met don't have any money. And some of the most stupid people I've met are quite wealthy. And it just makes me sad that people equate intelligence and capability with how much money they have, because the two have nothing to do with each other. Half of it's luck, the other part of it is persistence. And whether you can put a price on that or not, I don't know. But so when you get into the Bay Area, where the median house price, I mean, my median house price right now is 1.5 million. So the guy who delivers my mail, the person who teaches our kids, the person who saves our lives in fires can't live in our neighborhood usually. So the lack of economic diversity where we are in the Bay Area creates a situation where there are a lot of extremely arrogant people who are well educated in the one thing that they're really well educated in, and don't have as much knowledge about life as they probably should, or kindness, or a lot of things that are not as valued right now. And I think a lot of it has to do with the top. I think a lot of it has to do with the administration at the top. I've noticed over the last several years there is a lack of kindness that is out there that is so profound. And AI can't be kind. unless you program it to be. So, I'm hoping that all of you people that are engaged in working in tech are realizing that that is something that is really important to make sure that kindness is taken into consideration in all of this stuff.
Yeah, no, for sure. And yeah, how do you get yourself out of this like crazy client and situations like that as an agent?
Well, the best part about real estate is that it's episodic and it only lasts a certain amount of time. And I can put up with just about anything. If I can't put up with it, it's probably really, really, really bad. So I just smile my way through and make sure that the person's protected, legally taken care of, that the deal goes through to the best of my ability, and that's my job. I'm not in the people changing business, nor would I want to be. I'm definitely in the people observing business, but I'm not in the people changing business. And I do meet a lot of really wonderful people, by the way. If you were listening to this, you would think that everybody's a jackass. They're not. There are wonderful people that you meet every day of your life. But when you do meet some of these arrogant, really, really extremely self-important people, it's hard. It's actually hard because everybody puts their pants on one leg at a time, and everybody has to go to the bathroom, and everybody has to eat, and everybody has to have a shelter. Um, so
And
I'm sure in theater you also run into plenty of dramatic
yeah, I
people
was
as
going.
well.
Yeah,
I think that gives me a tolerance level that's actually a little bit more intense than other real estate agents. That might be something that separates me and makes me as successful as I am, because I just expect people to be creative and self-involved and focused on what they want and not what other people want. That's just how it goes. So when I meet it out in the world, I'm like, oh, you're normal.
yeah.
But the thing is, man, you are like one of my favorite clients, and you know that I love you, and you just shine out as a great person whenever you meet and
Thank you.
those are the clients that you live for as somebody in the service industry.
Yeah, I was going to ask how was Amen as a client.
Nice.
Yeah, she was great.
Horrible. I came from Wisconsin. I was nice.
Yeah, she's a very nice person, and she's incredibly intelligent, and she thinks through everything that you tell her, and she asks the right questions, and she learns what's important and what's not. So she's a great client.
Thank you. Thank you. Another question that I had, and this is maybe too general, but how are we in an AI in terms of like real estate? Are we in an AI bubble where I read all the time like the local Bay Area news that like these crazy Anthropics and ChatGPT and what's the name of them? OpenAI
Gemini.
and and others and kind of SpaceX because there's some like affiliation in
Mostly rock.
yeah, whatever. But these ones are like evaluated so high that I read it's going to release like just in the Bay Area like tens of thousands of millionaires.
Mhm.
It's kind of like killing even more. Like there is a shortage in the Bay Area of
Mhm.
houses. It's even going to be worse.
Yeah.
Do you like share this view? Like how do you see the market in general in the epicenter of this AI increase market?
Mhm.
And in general in the rest of the US? I know every market is local, but still, like, what's your intake for that?
Well, first off, the AI people want a particular type of house, which is generally a trophy type house. And there are fewer of them just in general. Right now, we're having a complete problem with inventory because a lot of these people who live in these big, beautiful mansion style homes, they have loans at a 2.85% rate. Whereas somebody buying now is going to get a loan at a 6.48 to 7.25 rate, depending on their credit, right? So a lot of the older people who don't want to leave the area are just not selling their houses, and they're staying in place and they're getting home health care. So a lot of people that would ordinarily be selling are not selling. And so you have less inventory. So the bidding on these particular trophy style homes goes insane. Something might be listed for $1,899,000 and then sell for 3.2 million. Okay. But that's not the general public of people that are buying houses. You can still buy a house in Oakland for under $1 million. You can still buy a house in Berkeley for under $1.2 million. You can buy a condo in any of these places for anywhere between 400 and $1 million. 400,000, I should say, and $1 million. So there is still housing stock for people that are not making giganto AI budget bucks. And, you know, the vast majority of my clientele are not AI people. A lot of them are tech people, but not AI people. A lot of them are engineers and teachers and professors and doctors and lawyers and you know, people that are involved in nonprofits. Now, it just may be that who I am as a person is drawing those kinds of people to me, because you basically have a best fit client out there. I'm sure you know that in working on branding and things like that. You know, my best fit client is usually a relatively well-to-do hippie, essentially. And so you know, and also I tend to serve a demographic that is a little bit older. So I'm not somebody that is usually working with a buyer in their 20s. I'm usually working with a seller who's in their late 30s up to their 80s. So what I see is that there is room for people in the Bay Area. There are houses for those people. You do have to be aware that the market is incredibly competitive, but I don't believe that the influx of AI money is going to affect us that much in Berkeley and Oakland. Where it's affecting things a lot is San Francisco right now. Median houses prices have gone insane. And also, of course, still Silicon Valley, where they've also been insane for a very, very long time. So those areas are more affected, I would say, than we are at this point. Somebody who buys a property in the East Bay is very wise, actually. They might be more financially savvy and educated than the people that are spending insane amounts of money on a flat in San Francisco.
You would think like that they are overpaying with this.
Personally, yes. If you were buying a flat in a TIC building in San Francisco, in a building that was built in 1912, and you're spending $3 million on that, I think you're overpaying for that. I just do. You know, I was selling, you know, I've been doing this for so long that a lot of the properties that are trading at $3 million right now, I was selling for $200,000 at one point in time. And real estate and life is so variable that could happen again. And that's the other thing. Back in the dot-com bust in 2001, a lot of people grotesquely overpaid for things just prior. And then their stock values went to nothing, and their properties also went to nothing. 2008, you had in some places a 50% reduction in value. You can't count on a property or a stock to hold its value. It's going to be malleable in the course of the economy. It really will be.
So you would think like if another .com 2.0 kind of AI, a .com AI happens, you would think we would have the same effect, like
I think that it's diversified enough that it won't be quite as bad, to be honest with you. I think that again, there are a lot of these people, but they are not the vast majority of people that are buying houses. And the people that are buying houses are people that are serving needs in other industries, and that are still needs.
Okay.
You know, so I don't think it's going to be as bad. And I think we have an unbelievably robust economy, given the nightmare that this administration has put on the economy. The fact that it's still chugging along to the point that it is kind of mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For now.
I know.
Interesting. And how do you see the like if a young fellow comes to you and tells you, I want to major in real estate or to theater today, what
Mhm.
would your advice would be?
I would say, like Joseph Campbell, follow your bliss. You need to do the thing that lights you up. Life is short, bad things happen. You need to be following the thing that you're passionate about, because doing something just for money is never ever going to make you happy, and your life will not be fulfilling.
Yeah,
Money's a tool.
you can do real estate on the side, like you.
Well, I mean, I don't do it on the side. I'm again, I work like 90 hours a week in real estate. I'm no kid, you know. The problem, they wrote a newspaper article about me not that long ago where the headline was, "The harder she works, the luckier she gets." And it's true in any industry. The harder you work, the luckier you get. The more you want what you want, the more likely it is you will achieve what you want.
So when do you have time for the directing and the theater? When?
It's an interesting thing. I am very blessed at this point in my career because I have an incredible team that I work with. And consequently, I have a little bit more time to be a human being than I used to. In the old days, I didn't have time. You know, it's only been in the last 10 years that I've gone back really to doing this. I was doing theater at a very major level. I was the artistic director of a major theater company. I was directing all over the country, and I couldn't afford my life. Um, and so I got out of that for about 16 years, and then developed my systems, developed my way of doing business. Now I have two assistants. I have a virtual assistant. I have a transaction coordinator. I have buyer agents. So I'm not, everything isn't depending on me being on a hamster wheel. So I have a little bit more time to be a human being.
Would you say that AI kind of helped you save time to do other things than real estate real estate in the realtor domain?
No, I would say that my putting good systems in place to do the work and figuring out the workflow and understanding what the workflow is and making sure that I've covered my bases. That is what has made it possible for me to do that. AI it's so nascent, it's so new, in terms of all of this stuff, that it really hasn't impacted how I do my business. And one of the things that I've learned I've been through 3 real estate downturns during my time in the business. And every single time what I learned was that you have to go back to the basics. And real estate is a people business. You connect with people. AI can't do that for me. Real estate is a boots on the ground kind of business. AI can't do that for me yet. Real estate is a connection business, and AI can do part of that for me at this point, but not as much. Like, I'm not one of those people. They have bulk mail features in our platform where you can send out 300 of the same message to people's phones and what have you. I don't do any of that stuff, to be honest with you, because if I want to talk to you, I want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to 300 people. So that's how I function at this point. But maybe I'm just an old school person. I don't know. There are kids.
I was going to say, do you see a difference with your style being long enough in the industry with youngsters, like people who are just starting real estate?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Oh, really? So how are they doing, the young people
They're
with
not
AI
doing
tools?
they're not doing that well. I pretty much every week I get at least 3 or 4 inquiries as to whether I'm hiring. And these are realtors who are not making enough money to make it on their own. So I would say that they have not figured out yet that you need the human touch in order for this business to succeed. They've just come out of school. You can now take real estate as your college major. That wasn't the case when I started out. And they think well, it's sort of like Carvana, a notable failure in the
Oh,
tech industry.
what is it about? Is it the car thing, the car buying or car rental? I don't know what's
Okay,
going on.
it's
Car
car
buying.
buying, and you know, their first ads, they showed cars in a thing that looked almost like where you go buy a candy bar from a vending machine, right? Which
I
was
think they called
probably,
it the car vending machine
yeah.
explicitly.
And you have a big generation of kids coming up who think that you can push a button and buy a house.
It
And
happened with Zillow, right? Zillow buy, what is it?
iBuyers.
Yeah, the thing was
So-
like you input everything and Zillow give you an offer and you sell your
Yeah.
house.
Yeah, that never took off. It was a gigantic failure. Again, because nobody took into account how important the human quotient is. Um, humanity is really important. It really, really is. And being able to show humanity is really, really important. So I don't see a time when real estate is entirely automated. There, you know, and everybody, all of these other companies like Zillow and Trulia and, you know, Purple Bricks, which is out of business, and all of those companies are attempting to create a platform that's end to end. And they're talking like not just real estate agents being taken out of the mix. They're talking mortgage brokers being taken out of the mix. They're talking they own they own their own mortgage company. They own their own title company. They own their own real estate brokerage. They own their own, you know, home and renovation and repair companies, all one platform. So somebody can go in there and never ever leave that platform. That has not happened yet because human beings have free will and choice, and they can't corner the market to the point where they have enough inventory that is meaningful. Does that make sense?
And you don't see it anytime soon going away, this thing.
Absolutely not. Have you ever put a group of people into a room and gotten everyone to have the same opinion?
No.
Right. Everybody has a different opinion. Everybody wants something different. How are you going to meet that need?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. Anything, Eric, from the chat?
No, a lot of the chat is just saying like, "Yup, I totally get it," and just sort of spinning off into their own
That's good.
conversations.
They agree
of-
with you. They agree with you. That's good. That's good. Yeah, and other part of your work and another core to your art, we say. I don't know. I'm translating maybe a French expression, but is the humane society involvement?
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know you're an animal lover. So what's your involvement? What do you do? Tell us.
Well, one of the things I'm most proud of in my life is that at this point, 4 years ago, I thought of something fairly ingenious and I raised over $400,000 for the Berkeley Humane Society. I also used to have an office on Ashby in Berkeley that I sublet to the Humane Society to turn into a thrift store because during the pandemic, my employees wouldn't come into work. They all wanted to work from home, and there really wasn't any reason for them to come into the office except to make me happy that there were a bunch of people in an office. And I thought about that for a while and thought, well, you know, I don't even really like going into the office. Why am I holding on to this office? And my dear friend Jeffrey Zerwick, who is the CEO or of the Humane Society, told me that they were looking for another thrift store space, and I thought, ding, 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 ding. So we turned my office.
So can you tell us what is Humane Society?
What do they do?
Yeah, what do they do?
Okay, they are an animal organization where they sponsor free spay and neuter clinics, shots. They have dog training. They find homes for pets without homes. They do surgeries on pets that need surgery, all at low or no cost to the people that bring these animals in. They're an incredibly important part of our society. If you care about animals, all of the humane societies across America are ones that are championing the rights of animals, not just in terms of the specific animals that they help at these places, but also in terms of helping to lobby for legislation that protects animals from cruelty in varying forms. So they're really, really important on every level, from like the day-to-day feeding of, like, during the pandemic when people lost their jobs, they stopped being able to feed their animals. I don't know if you thought about that. They weren't able to feed their families, so they were also skimping on feeding their animals. And like the Berkeley Humane had a pantry where you could come and get food for animals if you were in need of it. Placing animals with people. One of the things that people don't get also is that a lot of homeless people have animals, and those animals need vet care. But beyond that, a lot of homeless people are really terrific pet owners. Just so you know, it's actually really good for them, and it's really good for the pets. A lot of times, there are initiatives where pets are brought to prisons, and inmates get to take care of animals, which helps them to develop more humanity themselves, and also helps their psyches because they have somebody that they care for who cares for them in the circumstances. So humane societies are super important, and I routinely randomly pay for surgeries for animals all across the Bay Area because I believe so strongly in helping animals to survive. I frankly, most of the time, like animals more than most people, but but,
They are truthful. Animals don't lie to you. They are what they are. And
yeah,
why they have thrift stores? This is their like way of earning money that
yeah,
they
it's a way to earn money. If you donate to a thrift store, first off, you're not contributing to the incredible garbage dump of
tourism,
this
yeah.
world. You're not throwing things out into a dump. You're putting them someplace where they can be used again. So reusing and recycling clothing, jewelry, um, you know,
Furniture.
bric-a-brac, what have you, is a really great way to both help people in need so that they can buy things at a discounted rate, and also to stop the horrible lack of recycling that goes on in our communities.
Yeah. I didn't know that they were, you said all over the US?
Humane societies, yeah. Look. If you look online, you'll see that there are a ton of humane societies. There's the ASPCA, the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, but there are humane societies everywhere, and all of them serve the communities that they're in. There are so many unwanted dogs and cats that need to be rehomed, that need medical care, that need everywhere you go. And I truly believe animals are angels on earth. Truly, there's not a single animal out there that if it hasn't been abused is innately mean. It's only abused animals that end up being snippy and bitey and what have you. And usually it's out of fear and because they've been hurt by somebody. There are a lot of evil people out there that do very bad things to animals, and these societies are they're a savior for these animals.
That's great. Terrific. Wow. You do a lot.
Life is short. Do as much as you can all the time. My motto is, if not now, when?
That's true. That's true. Any other questions, Eric or Bob? We didn't. How is your building, Bob? You have a pool? You built a pool?
Well, I don't know if it's mid-century modern anymore, but based on my relatively zero amount of knowledge about mid-century design, we have a big open main floor with lots of wood and glass. We have a kitchen that has a range that seems to be malfunctioning.
That's nice.
We do have this nice seating area with the bookshelf and then kind of a sunken seating area situation. I don't know. Hard to say. It's a
Nice.
pretty cool house.
Beautiful view. You have a
I
pool and
spent the
beautiful
entire
view.
time building the roof.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have this big enclosed pool in the sort of basement, and then we have this very big roof
We're
situation.
going to ask Andrea to give us an estimate of how much
Yeah.
it's worth.
Could you sell
So,
this?
well,
Oh,
yeah, you can see the neighborhood's pretty rural, so
Yeah.
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 How many square feet is it?
Oh Lord. How many block? One block is 1 meter squared. Is that right?
Meter square. Oh, you're doing it in
that seems
meters.
about
2, 3,
right.
4, 5,
Yeah.
6, 7,
Hmm.
8, 9, 10. That's like 20, which means we have two things that are vaguely like 20 by 10 meters squared. So we've like
100 square meters. So
400
two,
square
And there's 9
meters.
square feet in a square meter.
yeah, square
Right.
meters is times about times 10, right?
So that's like 3,600 square feet. Plus, there's the basement pool area, and this bedroom. Oh yeah, the bedroom has a big mural art.
Ah,
Great
Oh, so we're not
views.
considering that just a giant TV.
Oh well, either one. TV, art,
Well,
probably TV.
I would say it depends on your location. If this house is in the Bay Area, this is
oh,
like
easily $8 million. Easily.
see, with the pool and everything, 8 million.
Yeah, the basement pool finished with quartz and blue lapis, and polished black stone stairs, and magical glowing lights that will never go out,
There you
and a
go.
diving board.
That is funny as hell. I'm glad you were
Stuck in
able
the
to
floor.
make the house while we were talking.
Yes,
I
yes.
think it might hurt the sale price that it's a 1-bed, 0 bath. But
Yeah, you know what? That is a problem.
does that technically make this like a fixer-upper?
Yeah, pretty much. Right now, the standard is actually more than 1 bathroom per bedroom.
Mm.
Oh. Let's
I mean,
have
you
a
could go in the
question.
pool if you really need to, but
Oh,
that,
gross.
that's not a real viable long-term
No.
solution, I don't think.
So, Andrea, what is the typical thing that you have to have in a house in order to sell? Like, what is the typical house that sells easily? Is it like a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom? Like, what is it?
No, basically to be truly saleable, I mean, yes, 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom houses do sell, but there's a built-in obsolescence to them because people expand or they need other roommates or whatever. So a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom is pretty much what a base house should be. And then in terms of our area, we don't have that many houses that have more than 4 bedrooms. When something gets up over 6 bedrooms, it's weird for most people. It's not what they need. So anything between 2 and 5 bedrooms, anything between 2 and 4 baths, is usually what sells in our area.
And a pool would add value or no?
In our area, no, but in some other areas, yes. And as global warming becomes more of a thing, probably pools will become more something that people want.
Why the Bay Area doesn't having a pool in the Bay Area doesn't add?
Because first off, they're what's called an attractive nuisance, which means that it's dangerous if there are children around. And if a little kid knows you have a pool and they can just hop a fence and get into your pool while you're at work during the day, they could jump in and drown. That's why it's called an attractive nuisance. It'll make your insurance go up considerably because of that. And also our weather, generally speaking, we have very few days where it's
Warm enough.
that somebody wants to sit and sunbathe. Also, most people in our area are not tan maniacs, unlike in Southern California where people are. And consequently, people don't like to do a lot of sunbathing. You only see it at places like the Claremont Hotel that people go and, slather themselves with, lotion and fry themselves. So in reality, it's not as attractive a thing here. And when people want to go swimming for recreation purposes, usually the pools aren't big enough to do any real swimming in when they're home pools. So usually people are going to go to a Y or to the Claremont or to someplace else that has an Olympic-sized pool that they can actually do.
The campus, the college, like the university.
Exactly.
Huh, interesting.
So yeah, pools are not the big deal here. They're huge in Southern California.
The other question that I wanted to ask, and this is kind of a worry, is because of climate change and everything, I heard that, like, especially in California, the insurances, different insurers are stopping insuring people.
Yep.
So what the hell? Like, how people are going
Well,
to get insurance?
it's a gigantic problem that the next governor of California is going to have to really manhandle, because the reality is that with all the fire danger that occurs around here, it's become unbelievably expensive for insurers to insure. And especially with the Paradise Fire and with some of the other fires that have occurred, their coffers are just really, really empty at this point. And so California created something called California Fair Plan, which is a big pot of money that all the major insurers have to dump money into, because everybody is required to be able to get insurance. Now, California Fair Plan is much more expensive than regular insurance. And so it becomes a detriment to people buying houses up in the hills near trees and things. And they're putting draconian measures into place around vegetation control, to the point where people's whole gardens are being decimated by the Berkeley Fire Department, because of
Not safe.
the new regulation, something called Ember. Um, and so consequently, it's very, very expensive. There's some places in California where you cannot get insurance. Like I heard that Malibu Canyon, which, catches on fire like every 2 years, you can't get insurance there. And some of these are the most wealthy enclaves in Southern California, where a lot of the movie stars live. And so they just choose not to be insured, which is just crazy. Um, there should be insurance for everybody, and it should be affordable, and it should be just a basic governmental right, and it should be made. Somehow there's enough. If there's enough money to spend $1 billion on a plane for Donald Trump, there's enough money to give insurance to the citizens of the state of California.
But it's not only California. There's with climate change, every
Florida,
state.
there are a lot of
Yeah.
places where it's really hard. In California, State Farm pulled out, Farmers pulled out, Allstate pulled out. Most of the large insurers pulled out. Some of them are bringing back plans to insure with a lot of caveats around it. Things they will insure, things they won't insure. And for example, they came without my permission. They got on my property. They went down to the very bottom of my hill and took a picture up so that it looked like tree branches were over my roof, which they were not, and then denied my insurance
Oh
based
my
on
God.
saying that I had trees that were hanging over my roof. But being a real estate agent who hires lots of drone photography, I had my drone photographer come out and take photos of my roof, and I disputed it, and they were forced to reinstate me. Um, but not everybody has access to a drone photographer on a moment's notice to do something like that. So and by the way, the thing that I did to raise the money for the Berkeley Humane, I will tell you about, because I think you should know about it. There's a tax in Alameda County for unused parcels of land, and a lot of people inherit land, and a lot of that land is landlocked or can't be built on for a variety of different reasons. And the parcel tax is $5,000 per parcel. Even if nothing is on it, you're not using it for anything. It's basically you're getting penalized for not turning it into housing. And so I got a list of all the people who had parcels that were not being used, who were subject to that tax. And I wrote a letter to all of them. And then I found a company called Realty Gift Fund, who was able to buy those parcels from those people. And then we put all those parcels back on the market, and I was able to sell all of them. And I was able to make sure that 100% of the proceeds, including my commission, went to the Berkeley Humane Society.
Wow. And why do people buy them if they cannot build on them?
Well, they don't buy them. What happened was the legislature decided to just tax them at $5,000 a year when they noticed that they weren't being built on. So a lot of people inherit a lot of land, a lot of property, that they don't use. And they've made a lot, recently Prop 19 made it so that if you didn't occupy a property that you inherited, for example, the tax basis would go straight to current values, even though they might have been in somebody's family for like 200 years or whatever. So there's a lot of legislation that goes on without consulting the populace, and people should be aware of it.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. And this is where we need humans and not AI to hallucinate and to
Exactly.
help us with that.
Yeah.
That's
Like,
that's
I don't think AI would have thought of my little scheme to get the money for the Berkeley Humane. I truly do.
for sure, for sure.
Well,
Well,
we do know you have a hard out you've got to make, so we would be respectful of your time. Before you head out, Andrea, is there anything that you want to plug, that you're working on, or projects, or anything that you want people to check out?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you so much. And thanks for having me, by the way. This has been fun. You guys are fun to talk to, and
thank you. It was
I
fun
hope
to
it was of interest to your viewers. I have a podcast called Realizations. That's spelled capital RE and then Realizations. And that is on Spotify, Hulu, Amazon, Apple, and YouTube. And we talk about everything to do with real estate and current legislation. I've had city managers on. I've had Robert Refkin from Compass, who's the head of all of Compass, on. I've had mayors on. I've had all kinds of people that intersect with real estate on. So that's one thing I'd love to plug. And then the other thing I'd love to plug is my reading series and my attempt to create the Lee Brady initiative at the Addison Space. We're going to be doing a reading series of plays written by and about women over the age of 55 starting in October. All the playwrights have been published or produced. They're very professional. The scripts are wonderful and the playwrights are tremendous. So I really hope that you look for them. It's called The Reading Extravaganza, Rainbow Zebra Productions at the Magic Theater.
Awesome. Well, check those out. And thank you again, Andrea, for hanging out with us. Like we talked about, now is the point where we're going to switch over to promoting our usual stuff, asking viewers to check out our website and follow us. So if you need to head out and get going to your next thing, no worries. But thank you. Thank you for hanging out. Chat, thank you for paying attention to Andrea. And I don't think we had a lot of questions from chat that came through, but I was watching. They were pretty interested in pretty much everything we talked about.
Good. I hope it wasn't boring for people. Talk to you soon. Take good care. Bye, everybody.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
All right, chat. If you would please just turn these off. If you would please go and check out our website, really appreciate it. Also, don't forget, it's the writing competition. Some of you have been waiting this for quite a long time. The Scary Tape submission window is open, and is open fairly briefly. It is open for like another almost a week. But now is the time. If you've been working on something, if you're trying to finish something up, or if you just didn't realize it was open, go check out realgoodai.org/thescarytapes. You can now submit your story. There's a form, some questions. You have to provide some information, and then we get to read them all, which I'm very excited about. Also, make sure you check out the newsletter or the volunteer page for ways to get involved. Check out our socials. If you haven't already followed our Twitch channel, we're going to do that raid right now. Raid over and give you a chance. We'll make it easy. Give it a chance for you to just, you don't have to hardly do anything. Click one button. Once the raid goes, follow the Twitch channel, twitch.tv/realgoodai. We'd really appreciate that. Also, make sure you follow the other socials. We post on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube Shorts regularly. You'll see a lot of Mandy there, but you'll also see highlights, some of the best stuff from these streams and from the team streams as well. Yeah, I think that's about it, Chet. Thank you for...
The Scary Tapes closes July 17th, so make sure you get your submissions in before then.
Yep. Mandy is the best, Chat, and she's working hard. She has to, we have to keep the judges isolated from the stories until they're all anonymized, so Mandy's working her butt off, because we have like over 300 entries at this point already. It's a lot. I don't know if that's the correct number, but like, it's a lot of entries. It's going to be a lot. So get them in.
I think it's close to 300.
I'm not a numbers person, Chad. That's what the other people people are here for. But we are out of here. Good house, Eric. I didn't really realize how much roof you were building. I think the roof really does
it's
it.
a lot of roof.
There's like as much roof as there is house. But anyway, here goes the raid. So just click the button, follow the Twitch channel, and follow all the other stuff. And check out the scary tapes. There's going to be some cool stuff coming down the pipeline with the scary tapes. I can't wait to see what the stories are. Can't wait till we get to work with the winners and turn them into episodes, podcast episodes, and publish those so that everyone can enjoy them. We are going to get out of here, chat. So thank you so much for hanging out. But we will see you next Thursday with, I believe, a team stream. If I remember correctly.
Could be the case.
And yeah, let me see if there is Cadet Liberty live right now? Is somebody live right now? See if there's a raid I should be doing from the Real Good channel, because I think the
Liberty will be
Real Good Regiment is almost always live at this point, or will be live in just a moment. Cadet Liberty playing Pal World. Interesting. It did just release into 1.0, so that'll probably be pretty cool. I've heard that, I don't know the details. I've heard there were a lot of updates. So we're gonna raid Cadet Liberty, who is part of the Real Good Regiment, who is a group of volunteers who started streaming to raise money for Real Good and now streams for fun and does their own interviews, has their own guests, and it's a whole thing. So check out that raid. We are out of here, chat. Until next Thursday, stay safe, be smart, have a good one. We'll see you on the next stream. Bye, chat.
See you guys.
Bye.